Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley. Well, we took a brief interlude to do a little modding here to try to preserve the grass. Make up our minds, huh? If it's in the field, we want it gone, but on the field edges, we'd like to keep it there. So we did a little with the grass on this wonderful map here, created by Wild Wild Wes for good old Farming Sim 15. And you know, I am still, I know I say this often, but I am still fully enjoying, this particular game. And even though I have Farm Sim 25, 22, I've got all of them. Oh, hold on a sec here. Maybe we set up a, let's see, is that a cross kind of, sort of? Yeah, maybe it is. Let me see if I can make it. Oh, except I didn't mean to lift that up. There we go. I am still enjoying good old Farm Sim 15. And I don't know. It's enough. I have a number of friends, have moved on to the latest version. And, hearing some of them talk, they are burnt out and they don't like kind of the direction the franchise is headed. They're frustrated with, some of the problems that the game has always had, and for reasons, and there's certain phrases that they'll use, in respect to the maker of the game, when bugs are found and it's, it can't fix, won't fix, and I don't know. I think what some of it is there's so much potential for the game. There's maybe disappointment, when it doesn't fully live up to maybe what it could be, but always as compared maybe to some other games, with maybe what they figured out or whatever. But, be all that as it may, I guess this is where I differ from, what some of my friends feel. I mean, I am still stuck in the past, I guess. And I guess at the end of the day, this is good enough. I am farming. This is a dream for me, and it's good enough. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And even this, I mean, when Farm Sim 15 came out, I remember reading an article, and it was described as photorealistic. And, you look at this, it is, especially the equipment. But anyhow, here we find ourselves, and over time, I am still learning more, when it comes to modding and so forth, and so why not remain with good old Farm Sim 15? Anyway, I think we have the grass situation figured out, so we won't be accidentally taking it out, on the edges of the field. I just remembered something here too. I forgot to turn on my timer. How much time has gone by? Maybe 5 minutes? I don't know. I'll maybe set it for 27 minutes. Haven't forgot to do that for a while. So I record this. It's on a Sunday. It's Mother's Day. In the off chance that there's actually a woman that plays Farming Sim, and even more rarity, if there happens to be a mother, well, happy Mother's Day to you. And maybe the rest of us, if they're dads, hope you're taking good care of your better half, the moms. They're very important. And so, yeah, I want to give a shout out to the moms, if you will. Oh, hey, there's an airplane up there flying along. I forget about that thing, pretty often. There's things built into this, that Wes put here for our enjoyment. Here we go. Yeah, this wide culti is gonna make pretty short work even of this. Hold on a minute. I was looking, or last time I was gonna look and then totally forgot. Let me see. Alright, so no, this isn't the one I want. Oh, yeah, I want to see where fruit is out. Okay, so I need to finish 37. I got 8, 1, 2, and 47. Probably will end up maybe 47. Do that last. We'll see. And, even as I grow in here, as tough of a slog as it's been, of course, it means that, man, someone did a terrible job in here fertilizing, not to mention names. Yeah, we're not going to have the best crop next go around, thanks to his terrible services. Anyway, yeah, each go around takes just a little bit longer as the farm has grown, and there's tons of fields, we still could end up owning at some point. And even as I say this, I, as of yet, don't have any exit plan or strategy to move on to another one. So, not until my enjoyment of what we're doing in here somehow disappears. And that's going to be a while. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. Last episode, we kind of deviated from a topic of conversation we had started to take care of a modding thing. And now that the ad is taken care of, I think I'd like to return to the topic of last time. It has to do with this property that our family purchased and some of the things, that we're doing to it. And I gotta say, so far, the place is basically a money pit. And we kind of knew that going in. And it was priced accordingly. Of course, anybody that ever sells a piece of property, of course, you think that there are gold bricks, just under the soil. And therefore, you need to charge a king's ransom to whoever's buying it. And it's interesting, as to what constitutes value. There could be a whole episode in its own right just on that topic. But for better or worse, we have it. And I can't remember exactly last time where we left off. I made a couple notes here. It's just kind of funny, some of the things, that we're dealing with. All the way from, the big things, like I would say, here a week, 2 weeks ago, was it maybe? We hauled in the new double wide, that's going to sit on the property that my son is going to live in down there. So that's a pretty big deal, both in terms of cost and visually seeing it. And then there's the tiny things, too, that are kind of like a thorn, on the backside. I still have a call coming in from the title company. They say they owe us $60 or something like that, and I don't know how it came to be. And we've taken a check. Anyways, that's a small item. We're trying to deal with it or whatever, but it's obviously the other things are far more exciting. Dude, I just barely got that down in time. So, I think where I left off was destruction of the old house, and I don't remember what all I said. It doesn't matter. We had a friend come in with an excavator, made short work of it, and we hauled everything away. First, before we could do it, of course, we had to have it tested for asbestos, and fortunately, there wasn't any. The test, I don't remember how much it cost. It was over $1,000, so it isn't cheap. But the real cost, of course, would come in if, they detected any asbestos. And because then nobody's going to come and just dig around or destroy, the house until you get that taken care of. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to work in it either if it had asbestos and was, harmful to one's health. So, nice. We could just slink through the door. Gate. And here we go on little number 8. Now, fingers crossed, did nothing change? Don't touch my grass. Hey, I think it's leaving our grass alone. Nice. Oh, that is so much nicer to zip along here and not have to worry about the grass. And it's taking the weeds out, so that's good too. But anyway, as the family friend of ours, was working the excavator, taking it out, we had a local trash company bring. We did 2 at a time, 2 big old drop boxes. 2 at a time, really, because that's the space that we had for them. And the other thing is a cost. I'm trying to think here now. Were they $2,500 a piece? I mean, lot of money, to haul off garbage. And I can't remember how many we went through, but it was multiples of these big, huge boxes. And it's like, how many are these going to fill? I don't think we had 10 boxes, but it was a lot of boxes. Maybe it was 8. And these are, 30 yards a piece? So, as the friend of ours, was tearing the house apart, he did separate the metal, the roofing. This, house, the old house had a metal roof on it, so he was able to separate it out. And we hauled that in a dump truck to a metal reclamation place to recycle. And I think they paid a few dollars for it or whatever, but it was negligible, in the grand scheme of things. I wish it would have paid for, all those drop boxes, but I'd rather haul it separately and get a little money, for it than have to pay someone to haul it off in those drop boxes. And I wasn't there when, the trucks, would come pick up the drop boxes, but it's similar to what I've seen here in Farming Sim, actually. If we just look at it here for a second, where would that be? Is it a miscellaneous? I'm pretty sure it's one of the DLCs. Well, I thought I had it in here. Would it be in the trailers? Yeah, the IT runner. Here we go. So all this stuff, where you have a hook and it goes and grabs multiple different types of things on the trailer. So, yeah, I think these all are IT runner. Yeah, so that's part of the DLC. And so I think that's kind of how these work on those trucks. It's a big old box. They have a big hook on the truck that grabs the box, something on there, and drags it up. It's kind of cool. So anyway, we got all the ad hauled off, and of course, with excavators being what they are, that there's no way, he could pick up everything. There was bits of plywood and boards and insulation, and it was just all over the ground. So wife and I went down there and spent a fair bit of time cleaning up the little bits. And the hard part is, and I still kind of have this problem down there, is what do you do with the nails? Those were just anytime something was ripped apart, you could just see them. They were on the ground, and for a while I kind of hesitated even driving back there, unless you were in a rig that had just huge tires or whatever. So that's probably a problem we're going to have, although at some point I know we'll do some work on the driveway, and so we'll probably be bringing in some more rock. Here, let me do this little field over here, then we'll go into, we'll take care of number one. I'm going to go in the big door over here. So, I know there's such a thing as a magnet. I don't know if I don't know, maybe I've heard there are machines, or I don't know what you call them, machine for lack of a better term, that you can take over the property that has a heavy-duty magnet, that will pull most of those things up, maybe, kinda, sorta. But I don't know. I don't know how long it takes for that kind of thing to just disintegrate on its own. I think those nails and screws and all those kinds of things, it can become brittle over time, but I don't think they just disappear. Did I miss a piece? And even though they're brittle, it can still ding a tire, Oh, it doesn't let me take out that little bit. Oh, wow. Just so. So it's just one more problem to contend with. And speaking of the roads, I know this property, it's set off of the main highway, the main paved highway, if you will, by, what is it? Is it I bet it's at least a quarter mile off the road, which is nice. Having it set off the main road, it's a little quieter back there. But the downside is when you're set off the road like that, you have a road, your own road to maintain. Gravel in this case, and let's just say the previous owner did zero maintenance on it for a very long time. So my father happens to have actually, you know what, it isn't his. I guess it's an uncle that has it. It's just my father's kind of the one that uses it most frequently, and actually put in some work to restore it. But it's an old road grader, I think, that they would have used in the 30s. It's a pull behind, and back in the day when you didn't have all the fancy hydraulics that we take so for granted today, they had to do it with other means, and those other means were either brute force, or you had pulleys, you used other means to get something like a road grader and a blade, to lift a blade. If you didn't have hydraulics, you were, maybe a screw gear or whatever those are called. And you did it all with human power. Some dude would stand on the back of the grader, and somebody would pull it down the road, and so someone was constantly twisting and turning all these wheels. It's almost kind of like a steering wheel size, that they had for, various adjustments, needed to smooth the road off. And it's, we would say, it's crude but effective. And so I know my son and my dad here the other day were running it over and trying to improve the driveway going in there. It was just pockmarked, with potholes, and come to find out, as they were grading it, one of the things you want to do when there's potholes like that is to try to get to the bottom of them, because if you don't, you just have a tendency of perpetuating again and again these same potholes when you run over them. It's just kind of the natural wheel action of tires and so forth. But unfortunately, this one here, they were pretty deep, so the potholes were, so I think they were worried they would go entirely through the roadbed. So they got what they could. There's a lot of foliage here that just didn't come out. I guess I'll let it sit. Just looking at the edge of the field. I have a feeling when we stopped cutting some grass out, we also stopped cutting the rest of the crop foliage off. Although, yeah, I thought I had this set up, maybe not yet, where only grass, would survive. But anyway, they're working on the roads, and so it's at least smoother, than it was, but still quite a bit of work to do. At some point, we're gonna have to deal with the potholes. I think what you can do to make them go away is pack them with, I think we call it 3/4 minus, which is a type of rock. It's gravel, where the largest piece you'll see in there is 3/4 of an inch, and the minus is basically everything underneath 3/4 of an inch, all the way down to powder practically. And the good thing about 3/4 minus is it packs really, really nice. And so to destroy a pothole by packing it in there and multiple times if needed, until something changes there in the structure of the road so that it's no longer a pothole. So we got that going on, and as soon as we have that figured out, like I say, we'll probably be bringing in gravel for the road as a whole to make it something decent to drive on. So that's going on. And let me see here. Oh yeah, following taking out the house, the house, of course, part of it was sitting on a foundation. So once we got all the boards and, the roof and all that out of the way, well, the next task, was for our friend to deal with the foundation. And it's sad sometimes when you think about it, and it's like, I just can't look at it this way. We planned for this, but it just feels like such a waste, not only to destroy a house, if it had been taken care of better, maybe we wouldn't have to do this, but then the property would have cost more money, and we couldn't afford it. I don't know. There's trade-offs all over. So, but it just seems you tear the house down and then you tear the foundation out. It's like this is hardened concrete. It's been sitting there for decades, and it'd be so nice, if you could just, once you strip the old off the foundation, to come in and build something new on top of it. But nope. The new thing, the double wide we're putting in is totally different size. It's going to be different orientation with, with the property. So the old foundation had to go. So he dug up all those concrete hunks, and there's just a ton of concrete around. Fortunately, there didn't appear to be a huge amount of rebar or which is steel, that they put in concrete to help give it more strength and hold it together. So I don't know if the code was different back, when this was built, but that was kind of nice, that there wasn't too much metal in there that they had to deal with. All right, let me see. Can I get in here? George, I can. All right. So eventually, the foundation and everything was totally taken out, so it's gone, and so basically down to virgin soil. And of course, as part of all this, you can't just, well, you can, but I mean, it causes problems when you can't really just destroy a house without paying attention to things that are attached to the house. For example, you bring in a power source. Well, before you just are digging at the house with an excavator, you really need to make sure the power is turned off, disconnected, and all that, and ditto with water and sewer at the very least. So we did at least. Probably the most dangerous of these, of course, is by far would be the power source. I have a brother-in-law who's an electrician, so he, bless his heart, came and disconnected it for us, and that allowed most of the rest of it to go. And so my friend, with the excavator, was going to keep an eye out for the water line and the sewer pipe. So, I went into our pump house, I turned the water line to the house off, or I think I did, and, the previous owner didn't really leave any instructions on which valve did what. So we're a little bit in the dark on all that. Truthfully, we should have maybe asked more questions or whatever. So note to self, if you get property, maybe talk with the former owner on some of these things before sending them on their merry way. But anyway, we didn't have any geysers of water showing up out there, so I'm pretty sure, we were able to get the water turned off. But my friend said he never could find the pipe, so we basically had to dig a trench and put in a new one, and we're going to end up in that field across from here when we're done. Actually, I can go from this field to that one in pretty short order. Oops. Nor could he find the sewer line, which is a bummer. So, but, I mean, all's well that ends well, the contractor that's working on it eventually, came back out and they found it. I've been down there a couple times, and so they were able to find what's needed to get all that attached. So I'm just glad there's people working on it who are way smarter than I am, that know how to do all these things. I'm also glad I'm not ripping out all the grass. So nice to be able to zip along here and not have to worry about it. So a week or two ago, then we had the new house brought in. And actually, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, we hauled all the junk off and hauled the metal, and we still have some concrete hunks to haul out of there. There's a pile of them, a couple dump truck loads. Part of the problem is figuring out a place to take it. I'd like to recycle it if I can, versus just take it to the dump, or landfill. But I guess we'll do what we gotta do. But anyway, there's still some of that about, and but it was enough removed that the contractor could come in and continue working on it. So he had his men there. They smoothed things off and they poured a pad, just a simple concrete pad, the dimensions of the new double wide that we're bringing in, and got that all poured and done. This is probably a month or two ago that they did all this. I don't even remember. I was in a very busy time in my work, and it's still busy as far as that's concerned. But they were able to do that even during a period of rain, to get the concrete boot healed in. I'm a little concerned it's a little low in grade, but I assume the guy knows what he's doing, so hey, whatever. As long as it gets the job done. So, well, for all I know, I am way over time on all this. I didn't start with the timer to know where I was at, so but the timer just went off, and I will let everybody go here and see you on the next one. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by.